Single-player games are having a massive comeback, and this year is packed with the kind of experiences that remind you why this medium is special. From a 13-year wait that finally pays off with the most anticipated game in history, to a turn-based RPG that swept the Game Awards, and a survival horror return that broke sales records on launch weekend, these are the 10 best single-player games you must play in 2026. And we're going through all of them. Kicking us off at number 10 is the most anticipated game in the history of gaming itself, GTA 6. Rockstar Games' 2026 release ends a 13-year wait since GTA 5, and the hype is honestly impossible to overstate. The very first trailer broke YouTube view records when it dropped, and the entire gaming world has been counting down the days ever since. If there is one single-player release that defines 2026, this is it. The game takes you to a fictional version of Florida called Leonida, anchored by a returning and completely reimagined Vice City. You play as two protagonists, Jason Duval, a military veteran turned drug runner working out of the Florida Keys, and Lucia Caminos, who comes into the story fresh out of prison, looking for a way forward. Together, they get pulled into a sprawling criminal conspiracy across the state in what is being described as Rockstar's most cinematic and emotionally grounded narrative yet. The world is enormous. Vice City returns, but this time it's just one part of a massive open world that includes coastal towns, rural highways, national parks, and swampland. Reports describe the map as Rockstar's largest ever, with more enterable buildings than any previous GTA, smarter NPCs with full daily routines, and a police system that's been completely rebuilt from the ground up. The atmosphere blends modern satire of contemporary America with the kind of character-driven storytelling Rockstar perfected in Red Dead Redemption 2. Early footage suggests this might be their most ambitious project yet, and considering what they've already delivered, that's saying something. A must-play that lives up to over a decade of anticipation. At number 9, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the breakout indie phenomenon of 2025 from French developer Sandfall Interactive that absolutely dominated the Game Awards 2025.
And the game of the year is mon ami Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Winning Game of the Year alongside 8 other major awards including Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score, Best RPG, and Best Independent Game. This is the most decorated indie release in recent memory, and once you play it, you understand why. The world is a haunted Belle Polk dreamscape inspired by classic French art and literature. Every year, a mysterious figure called the Paintress appears and paints a number, and everyone of that age dies. As the countdown approaches your generation, Expedition 33 sets out to stop her before they become the next casualty. The story is melancholy, philosophical, and surprisingly funny in moments, balancing heavy themes with sharp character writing. The combat is what sets the game apart from traditional turn-based RPGs. Instead of just selecting menu options, you actively dodge attacks, parry counters, and chain combos in real time during turn-based fights. It blends the strategic depth of classic JRPGs with the kinetic feel of modern action games. It's brilliantly designed and somehow fresh in a genre that's been around for decades. Visually, the game looks like a painting brought to life. The art direction blends impressionism with surrealism, and every environment feels handcrafted. The soundtrack is unforgettable, mixing orchestral arrangements with haunting vocal pieces that perfectly match the tone. Characters are deeply written, performances are excellent, and the emotional weight of the journey lands harder with every chapter. Expedition 33 proves that indie studios can absolutely compete at the highest level, a must-play that will be remembered for years to come. At number 8, Resident Evil Requiem. Capcom's February 2026 release that returned the legendary Resident Evil franchise to its survival horror roots while pushing the entire series forward. The game launched with overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, broke franchise sales records, and became one of the best-selling games of 2026 within its first weeks. If you've been waiting for a reason to dive back into the Resident Evil universe, this is the one. The story follows Grace Ashcroft.
Grace Ashcroft.
Yes?
An FBI analyst investigating a series of mysterious deaths connected to the Raccoon City incident. 8 years after her mother was murdered, Grace gets assigned to the same case at the same location. And what unfolds is one of the most psychologically intense survival horror experiences the franchise has ever delivered. The story also brings back fan favorite Leon S. Kennedy, whose action-focused sections add a completely different gameplay feel.
Sorry.
Alongside Grace's slower, more atmospheric horror sequences. Gameplay shifts between first-person and third-person perspectives at the player's choice, which means you can experience the same scary moments however you prefer. Grace's sections lean into the survival horror of Resident Evil 7 and Village, careful resource management, hiding, escape, while Leon's sections deliver fast-paced action and gunplay similar to the Resident Evil 4 remake. The atmosphere is incredible. Raccoon City returns in haunting fashion, with environments that pay homage to classic locations from past Resident Evil games while delivering completely new horror experiences. The sound design alone is worth the price of admission. Capcom continues their incredible track record with Resident Evil remakes and new entries. Requiem is one of the strongest single-player releases of 2026, a horror experience that respects the legacy while feeling completely fresh. At number 7, Elden Ring, from Software's 2022 open-world masterpiece that didn't just dominate Game of the Year discussions, it redefined what a massive single-player adventure could feel like. Set in the lands between, the game drops you into a fractured realm with almost no explanation and lets your curiosity do the rest. Where you go, what you fight, how you build, all of it is yours to figure out. The combat keeps that signature From Software weight. Every swing matters. Every dodge has consequences. Every boss fight feels like a learning curve that demands precision and patience. But unlike earlier Souls games, Elden Ring gives you breathing room. If something feels impossible, you can leave, get stronger, and come back later. The world rewards experimentation and persistence in equal measure. Exploration is where the game truly shines. Hidden dungeons, optional bosses, secret areas that have nothing to do with the main path. The lands between is packed with discoveries that most other open-world games don't even attempt. You can spend hours wandering without touching a single main quest, and the game keeps surprising you. The 2024 Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC took everything that made the base game special and turned it up even further, adding one of the most challenging and creative expansions in recent memory. Combined with the original game, you're looking at well over 100 hours of one of the deepest single-player experiences available. Elden Ring continues to dominate single-player conversations years after release, and there's a reason for that. It's demanding, beautiful, and endlessly replayable, a must-play that absolutely deserves a spot on every modern gaming list. At number 6, Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar Games' 2018 masterpiece that genuinely changed what an open-world game could be. You play as Arthur Morgan, a member of the Van der Linde gang in the dying days of the American Wild West. And what starts as a standard outlaw story slowly transforms into one of the most emotionally devastating character studies ever put into a video game. The world is unmatched. Rockstar's attention to detail is bordering on obsessive. Animals leave tracks, mud sticks to your horse, snow accumulates on your hat. NPCs have full schedules and remember your interactions. You can hunt, fish, play poker, get into bar fights, or just sit by a campfire and listen to your gang sing. The game refuses to rush you, and that patience pays off in moments most games would never attempt. Arthur Morgan is the heart of everything. He's a violent man, a thoughtful man, a loyal man, a doubting man, all at once. The way the story explores his arc through journal entries, side conversations, and quiet moments is some of the best character work in any medium. By the end, you're not just playing a Western, you're living the slow collapse of an entire way of life. Gunfights are grounded, weighty, and cinematic. Travel is deliberate. Pacing is slow in a way that filters out players looking for arcade thrills. But for players who let the game breathe, RDR2 is one of the most absorbing single-player experiences ever made. Even in 2026, almost a decade later, nothing else on the market touches what Rockstar achieved here. A must-play for anyone who loves storytelling in games. At number 5, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Insomniac Games' 2023 PlayStation exclusive that took everything from the first two games and turned the volume up across the board. This time, you switch between Peter Parker and Miles Morales, which keeps both the gameplay and story moving constantly. Each character has their own abilities, their own emotional arc, and their own way of approaching combat. Traversal is the showstopper. Swinging through New York City was already iconic in the previous games, but Spider-Man 2 adds web wings that let you glide across long distances at incredible speed. Combined with faster swinging mechanics, getting around the city is so satisfying that fast travel almost feels unnecessary. Insomniac has perfected open-world traversal in a way other studios still struggle to match. Combat is bigger, faster, and more aggressive. Both Spider-Men have expanded ability sets, new gadgets, and more dynamic ways to handle large enemy groups. Boss fights are cinematic in a way that mirrors the best superhero films, and Venom's presence in the story creates some of the most memorable set pieces in modern gaming. The story leans heavier than expected. Peter's relationship with his mentor Otto Octavius from the first game still casts a shadow, while Miles grapples with grief, identity, and what it means to step up as a hero in his own right. The emotional beats land hard, especially in the second half of the game. Visually, it remains one of the most impressive PS5 showcases. New York looks alive, dense, and reactive. If you have a PS5 and you haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, this is one of the easiest recommendations on this entire list. At number 4, Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. Warhorse Studios returned in 2025 with the sequel everyone was waiting for, and they doubled down on everything that made the first game stand out. You're back as Henry, and right away the game reminds you this is not your typical power fantasy RPG. The world is unforgiving, the combat is deliberate, and almost nothing comes easy. The setting is medieval Bohemia in the 15th century, and the level of historical detail is staggering. Towns have working economies. NPCs have schedules. Reputation actually changes how people treat you. Wear bloody armor into a peaceful village and watch the response. Dress like a noble and doors open. Everything you do has weight in a way most RPGs only pretend to deliver. Combat is slow, technical, and brutally demanding early on. You'll lose fights you have no business winning, and the game expects you to learn from each defeat. Once the systems click, though, it becomes incredibly satisfying. Sword fights feel like real duels. Timing, distance, and footwork matter just as much as raw stats. Quests are where the game really separates itself from competitors. Most situations can play out in completely different ways depending on your approach. Sneak in, talk your way through, fight your way out. The game respects your decisions and never forces a single solution. Side missions often turn into full story arcs with consequences that ripple through the rest of the game. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 isn't the most beginner-friendly RPG on this list, but for players who love grounded, immersive, systems-heavy experiences, it's one of the best single-player games released in years. At number 3, Black Myth: Wukong. The 2024 phenomenon from Chinese developer Game Science that took the gaming world by complete surprise and became one of the best-selling action RPGs in recent memory. Based on the legendary Chinese novel Journey to the West, you play as the Destined One, a staff-wielding warrior pulling from the mythology of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. The combat is where this game shines. It's fast, aggressive, and clearly inspired by Souls-like design, but with its own unique identity. You chain together light attacks, heavy combos, transformations, and powerful spells and fights that demand both precision and creativity. The boss encounters are some of the most cinematic and challenging fights you'll find in a modern action game, with each boss feeling like its own mini-movie. Visually, the game is stunning. Environments and enemies pull heavily from Chinese mythology, giving the world a distinct identity that sets it apart from every other action RPG on the market. From misty mountain temples to flame-scorched battlefields, every region looks like a moving painting. The use of Unreal Engine 5 puts this on display in ways that very few games have matched. What's surprising is how the game blends accessibility with challenge. It's tough but never punishing in the way Dark Souls or Sekiro can be. You can experiment with builds, transformations, and spells to find an approach that suits your style. The story leans into Chinese folklore in a way that feels respectful and engaging, even for players completely new to the source material. Black Myth: Wukong is proof that AAA single-player games still have room to surprise the entire industry, a breakthrough hit that deserves every accolade. At number 2, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, Hideo Kojima's 2025 sequel to one of the most polarizing games of all time, and somehow he made it even bigger, weirder, and more ambitious than the original. Sam Porter Bridges is back, and this time the journey takes him beyond the United States into entirely new landscapes filled with hostile environments, mysterious factions, and characters that only Kojima could dream up. The game keeps everything that made the first one unique: the careful balance of cargo, the meditative traversal, the asynchronous online connections between players, but smooths out the early friction that turned some players away. Tools unlock faster. Movement feels more fluid. The world variety is significantly improved, with new terrain types, weather systems, and a more dynamic ecosystem. Combat has also been refined. Encounters with BTs and human enemies feel more responsive, and Sam has access to more tools to handle different threat types. The boss fights are some of the most visually striking moments Kojima has ever directed. The cast is incredible. Performances from major Hollywood and gaming actors who feel completely committed to the strange world Kojima has built. The cinematography and cutscenes still looks like a film festival entry, and the soundtrack mixes original music with curated tracks that elevate every emotional beat. Death Stranding 2 isn't for everyone. It's slow, it's strange, it's deeply philosophical, but if you give it the time it deserves, it delivers one of the most unique single-player experiences you'll find in 2026. A genuinely artistic gaming statement that proves Kojima still has plenty to say. And at number 1, The Last of Us Part 2. Naughty Dog's 2020 PlayStation masterpiece remains one of the most discussed games of the modern era, and revisiting it in 2026 hits even harder than it did at launch. The story picks up years after the first game, and right away you can feel the weight of everything that happened. Joel and Ellie are older, their relationship is complicated, and what starts as a quiet small-town life quickly explodes into one of the most emotionally devastating revenge stories ever told in a video game. The gameplay is genuinely incredible. The combat is brutal and grounded, the stealth mechanics are tight, and every encounter feels desperate in a way that very few games can pull off. Enemy AI is smart enough to flank you, call out your location, and react when their teammates fall. Ammo is scarce, every bullet matters, and every encounter feels like the last one you'll survive. What makes the game stand out even years later is its commitment to consequence. Naughty Dog made bold storytelling choices that polarized players, but those choices are exactly what make this game stick with you. You don't just play this story, you wrestle with it. Long after the credits roll, you'll find yourself thinking about specific moments and wondering if you would have done things differently. Visually, the game still looks better than most 2026 releases. The performances are Oscar tier, and the score by Gustavo Santaolalla is one of the most haunting soundtracks in gaming history. A genuine masterpiece that closes out our list as one of the most important single-player games ever made. That's our list. Which one are you playing first in 2026? Drop it in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe for more gaming countdowns, and we'll see you next time.